Well, here's the latest from the good ship Gemini. I've now taken the stern tube out because it was leaking. I'm going to repack it somehow. And that was a pain in the backside that was to get out. But look how that, I'm going to fill that up with epoxy down the bottom there so it doesn't trap water. And I've got the whole tube out, so I'll clean it up. I don't quite know where it was leaking, be it from this forward half or the after half. We'll see. What a pain. Well, here we are back on Gemini, and this time we've got the shaft sleeve out, and we're just tidying things up. And we put an extra hole down here so I can get the long spanner through, ratchet rather, to tighten up the 7mm nut that hides underneath the shaft down here. So this will come through. I'll be able to tighten it up when the shaft is there. Anyway, I've been tidying it up. Been doing a bit of sanding down there. It's all a bit cruddy, and now I'm going to either paint it or put some epoxy down there. Probably put epoxy down here as well, because it was a bit damp looking at it. Now I've got the heater on drying it out. So progress so far. Stop recording. I'll be back on Gemini just to see how the epoxy's gone off. Looks fine here, and inside, nice smooth bottom there, so I think that's going to be okay for painting now. Right, we've painted over the epoxy. Let's have a look what sort of job it's done. Not too bad here. A little bit in the hole. I'll go and wipe that out now, I think. But otherwise, looking much better. I can't get down the edges there, so I'm going to leave in those. Probably have to take the tank out to do that. Anyway, I think we finished with the paint. So as soon as I get the shaft tube back, we can start putting these bearers in properly. Let's have a look what the rest looks like. Not too bad. Most of it's dry from yesterday. A little bit wet down on this seam here, so I'm not too sure what all that's about. I think it may have been a bit damp in there, but certainly much improved. Not too sure how this is going to come out, but here's what we've got so far. This is the shaft coming all the way through, and the engine base mounts need to be the same plane. Whilst this degree may not be accurate, this cowl is standing at, if I can stop shaking, 8.3 degrees. So we want these to be the same. 8 point, 7.9, 7.8. All right, we can tweak that up. And this one, 8.4. So what do we have? 8.3, 8.4. So they're basically in the same era. And then this level between the two, can you see the little gap there? Just a gap. And here again, just that gap. So I'm saying this is parallel with these bearers. And because the center of this should be level with these, what will happen when the feet come in, we'll use the feet to lift up by 8 millimeters. The question is now, we have to put new holes in here to screw these in. Anyway, let's see what happens, shall we? Stop recording. Well, here we are, just doing a template for the Beta 20 horsepower. So this is our board where we're going to mark the central position for the flexible mounts. I'm going to do two on this side now. This is where the plate from the gearbox, that's flush there, so everything's measured from there backwards. So let's now do this side here. Just get at it. So from the forward face there, it is 170.5. 170.5. How do you get 0.5 of a millimeter? 170.5. There. And from the center line, it is half of 406, which is 203. Precisely. Have I got a square somewhere? Probably not. And it's 50 either side of that, total of 100 between the bolts. Five, bolt 1, bolt 2. Right, just to check, so that is 107.05, yes. So the difference between these two should be 406. Five and a half. That's all right. Now the one down here. So this one is back 170 plus 307.5, meaning 478. Try and get in the same plane. 478. Did it look right? Yeah, 478. And the center line it is 203. Right, let's try and put it all together, see what it looks like. Turn it around so we can see what's going on. So the thought process is I've got one of these on board. So that's going to come out of the shaft, and we'll make sure it's central in the shaft sleeve, as it were. Then we'll position this so that that is literally just not touching at the right angle. And then when we find a suitable place for that on the bearers, we'll mark through the holes that are going to be here, so where we can drill the bolts later on. I think that's about it. Well, here we are again on Gemini, and this time we've completed the slide for the engine. Here's the engine template, which will be lowered down vertically onto the temporary bearers, and then judiciously slid down these sliders very carefully onto the main bearings. Anyway, that's the hope. We'll have to see how effective it is. And of course then we've always got this in case the unfortunate happens and we have to pull the engine out. A bit more difficult than that when we do it. But anyway, these are braced, so when you're pushing and pulling they won't go anywhere. So I think we're pretty safe. So just put a so-called make-believe shaft just to prove that it's more or less centered there. There's very little movement in it, and when we get to the other end I'll show you how I've kept it central. I said that this bit here fits into the larger hole in the shaft sleeve, thus centering it very nicely. Well, here we are back on the boat, going to try out my template for the Beta 20. Let's just see if it works, shall we? Take that out for the time being, shall we? We know it fits in nicely. Fits. Right, I think we've reached a reasonable point whereby I'm looking at the template now in situ. The bearers I've secured in with one decent bolt each at this end and one at the other end. The string denotes the bottom of the shaft, and as you'll see it's going through the center line of the template, and if I just move this plate, this string here, you'll see it moving at the front, so it's more or less parallel to all of that. A bit worried about where these holes are going to have to go here, because you've only got 70mm either side there, and you can see where the holes are going to go. They're going to go at 50mm, so there'll be 15mm over on the edge, and these are much tighter. And you'll see down the end there, it doesn't look to be on the bottom, but don't forget that, I don't know what you call it, hole is bigger than need be. And we'll go outside in a minute. I'll show you where the string is on the bottom of the cutlass bearing. So this is the bottom, as opposed to, we want the center line should be in line with the bearings. So now what will happen is we'll just lift them up on the flexible mounts. In theory, I'm now going to go and measure, because I think this is roughly where we're going to go to, make them back just a tad. I'm going to measure now what the length of the prop shaft we need. Not sure it'll pick it up, but just to prove the center line is correct, and you can see the cutlass bearing. You might not be able to do it on here, but let's see. So don't forget the board thickness will take me down a little bit lower, just in case. Well, it's arrived. Package for William Smith. Excellent. $130 kilograms. Right, let's get this thing open. Water lock, bigger than I thought. Some spares. County new panel. I don't know where the ignition keys are. Oh, there they are. Coupling and the feet. set those at 10 mil, I think. Oh, very good. So shiny. Do you want to look inside? And stop recording. Back. Well, it's down on the sleds. And this is holding it from sliding down because it wants to slide down. So it'll be easy to push down, I'm sure. So it's a combination of this, pulling it in, this lowering it down. I plan to slide it along the boom. I missed the first part of moving it in, but it's quite easy. I've got this on loose, so I can stop it when I want. Not too fast. Go too fast, it's snookered. And that's about it. Secure that. And the only adjustment I've now got to make is this switch here, which connects both the batteries together in an emergency. That sticks out too far and it just touches on the adjustment for the alternator. So I'm going to have to disconnect this and move it somewhere. It's only 2 wires, about 4 screws. Hopefully that wouldn't take too long. Then I'll put the engine back into its proper place on the bearers and then start putting some bolts in. Well, here's an update from Gemini on Thursday the 26th of March 2026. Completing most of the ancillary equipment onto the engine. Starting with, let's go down below, starting with the bilge automatic pump. The through hole, true fit, or true design. Just waiting for that sealant to go off. New raw water seawater strainer fitted in there, and we've got the, there we go, this anti-siphon device. So it's fed from the output of the heat exchanger up through the anti-siphon device and then back into the exhaust. There are silicone hoses down the end there, very close to the heat, just in case. And also up here we have a telltale feed going over the side at the aft. Also the Rachner fuel filter has been refitted, it was already there. And the next project now is going to put in the water lock stroke muffler, exhaust muffler in the other end, which is going to be fun, I'm sure. Okay, here goes for our test run. Water's on. Quickly climb up. Start her up, baby. over the top of that. You can see, tighten that up a bit. Water coming out. Yeah. Water coming out, telltale. Yeah.